The other side of midnight. Mark Hill had always been a night owl. As a freelance software developer, it suited him. There was something about the quiet of midnight that helped him focus, the stillness allowing him to think more clearly. But one night, as he was finishing up a project, his phone rang. He glanced at the clock. 12 o'clock a.m. exactly. Strange, the number was unrecognizable, but without thinking, he answered, "Hello." At first, there was nothing, just static, a brief hiss. Then, someone spoke, and Mark's heart nearly stopped. It was his own voice, though it sounded older, worn down by something he couldn't place. "Mark, listen carefully. You have 7 days. 7 days before everything falls apart." "What?" Mark blinked, wondering if this was some sort of prank. He glanced at the number again, but it still didn't make sense. "I don't have time to explain, but tomorrow, you'll understand. You're going to lose a client. It starts there. Just be ready." Click. The call ended. Mark sat in stunned silence for a few moments, staring at his phone like it might offer some kind of explanation. He shook his head, trying to shake off the weirdness. A prank. He decided. Some voice-mimicking app. His brain was probably fried from overworking. That had to be it. But when the next day came, something gnawed at the back of his mind. The call? The voice, his voice? It felt too real to ignore. He checked his emails compulsively, waiting for something to happen. At 3 p.m., it did. "Apologies," the email read. "We've decided to go in a different direction." Just like that, his biggest client was gone. Mark's blood ran cold. He hadn't even processed the email before his phone started ringing again. He didn't need to look at the screen to know it would be the same number. "Who are you?" he demanded when he picked up. "What do you want from me?" "I'm you, Mark, from the future. I know this is hard to believe, but you have to trust me. Things are going to get worse if you don't listen." "Worse?" Mark scoffed. "What do you mean? You're telling me I'm talking to myself. I know how it sounds," the voice's voice continued, "but I'm trying to help. Tomorrow, you'll get a call from Greg. Whatever you do, don't answer it. Trust me, that call will ruin everything." Mark was too stunned to speak. He hadn't spoken to Greg in years. Why would he suddenly call? And why would ignoring the call matter? But before Mark could argue, the line went dead again. The next day came, and Mark tried to push the conversation out of his mind. He even laughed about it to himself, telling himself that the voice was nothing more than some bizarre coincidence, a glitch in the universe. But when his phone rang that afternoon and Greg's name flashed across the screen, the laughter stopped. It was impossible. Greg, after all this time? His finger hovered over the decline button, but curiosity got the better of him. He picked up the phone. "Hey, Mark, it's been forever, man." Greg's voice was cheerful, oblivious to the storm brewing in Mark's mind. Hey, Greg." Mark's voice was tight. "I'm in town for a couple of days. I was hoping we could catch up. How about we grab a drink tonight?" Mark hesitated. Don't answer it. The warning echoed in his mind. He knew he should have declined, made up an excuse, anything. But despite the nagging voice in his head, he agreed. That night, they met at a bar. For a while, it felt like old times, laughing, reminiscing about their college days. Mark was starting to feel like he had overreacted to everything. Maybe those calls were just some weird prank, and he was making a big deal out of nothing. But as the night went on, Greg's mood shifted. His laughter grew forced, and his expression darkened. "I need to talk to you about something," Greg said quietly, glancing around like he was expecting someone to overhear. "What's going on?" Mark asked, feeling his stomach tighten. "I'm in trouble, Mark. Serious trouble." Greg leaned in, his face pale under the dim lights of the bar. He began to explain how he had gotten involved with some dangerous people, loan sharks, the kind you don't mess with. He owed them money, more than he could ever pay back. "I told them you could help," Greg said, avoiding eye contact. Mark's blood ran cold. "You what?" "I didn't have a choice." Greg's voice cracked, desperation seeping through his words. "They're after me, and I didn't know what else to do." Mark shot up from his chair, fury mixing with panic. "You dragged me into this? You used my name?" Greg tried to explain, but Mark wasn't listening. His heart pounded as he turned to leave. But before he could take a step, two men walked into the bar, their eyes locking onto Greg and then shifting to Mark. The taller one grabbed Mark by the arm, his grip like a vice. "You're coming with us." Mark's mind raced. He had ignored the warnings, and now everything was falling apart. He didn't know how it was possible talking to his future self, but the calls had been real. He should have listened. Now, standing face to face with the men Greg had led straight to him, he realized his life was spiraling out of control. The man leaned in close, his breath cold against Mark's ear. "We're going to have a little chat." Mark swallowed hard. 7 days. He still had 7 days to make things right, but as he was dragged out of the bar and into the cold, dark night, he couldn't help but wonder if it was already too late.